Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. I've got my good friend Dean Tuck. He's the Managing Director of Dreadnought Resources. The ASX code is DRE. Now, he's coming to us from, and we'll talk about this in a minute, talking to us from the warehouse, and we'll talk about that in a second. But these guys are explorers, but they're project generators, but they're explorers at heart. And we want to talk about what they're doing in 2024 because it's pretty interesting times. There's some things changing. It's almost Dreadnought Resources Part 2, if you like. Dean, good to see you. And I love
good to see you, Carrie.
Warehouse.
Thank you. Yes, this is our low overhead. So Dreadnought, we're not in West Perth. We're not in the city. We have an office warehouse out in Osborne Park. So all of our core and all of our equipment is stored here. And right next door to my right is the door into the office where all the team is. So all the quiet rooms and offices a bit full at the moment. And so I'm out here in the warehouse to have a chat.
I love it. That's what life's all about, isn't it? And as you say, low overhead. So for shareholders out there, you can see that they're not spending lots of money. And is that core in the background I can see as well?
That is some of the core from the Star of Managaroon and some of the core from Kimberley. Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about a couple of those today, but rather than Kimberley and Managaroon, can we start with the central? In fact, no, let's go back a step, if you like.
All right.
Let's explain in very simple terms who are Dreadnought Resources, because I think that, talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, if you like.
All right, that's a great question. So Dreadnought Resources, North American models, you listen to the legends like Rick Rule and some of those guys, they talk about the project generator model. Yep. And in the project generator model, you do some project generation, which we do at Dreadnought, but then you try to attract a major to do the exploration work for you. And we believe that over the last couple decades, the majors don't have the exploration teams anymore. They don't make the big discoveries. All the discoveries are made by the juniors. And second to that, that exploration cost in the grand scheme is actually quite low and the reward is quite high. That is the front end of the Lassonde curve. And so what Dreadnought is, we are a project generator that also has a fantastic in-house exploration team focused on that discovery. And essentially, we take that partnership model from the beginning to do the exploration. We control the pace, we control the good technical work, and then we move that stage to post-discovery. And that's when all of our projects, we are here to ultimately sell to or partner with a major mining company that will then take whatever we discover into production. So we are an exploration company, we are a project generator, and all of our big land holdings, all of the commodities that we look for are ultimately set up to partner with or deal with the major.
So from a value for shareholders or potential shareholders going forward, it's all about discovery. It's not about taking it through all the way necessarily, but you're saying we have big land holdings because of the chance of discovery.
Big land holdings increase your bites of the apple within a prospective area. And it also makes any potential partnership or acquisition with a major company more attractive because they tend to like big shareholdings or big land holdings themselves.
Why do they like big land holdings? Because big land holdings don't necessarily translate to big discoveries, or do they? Am I being naive?
Well, if you have that greenfields opportunity and you're opening up new search space, you want to control that search space. So if you're exploring an area where discovery hasn't really been made before, then you don't always know where that camp is going to be and where the additional discoveries are going to be. And so one of the greatest value creation events in exploration is discovery, but more importantly, it's discovery in the greenfields terrain, because mineral deposits often don't occur by themselves. So you want to have a dominant land holding in the region. If that region's prospective and you make that discovery, you want to control that ground from day one.
Okay, so let's go over a couple of the projects, because I don't want to confuse people, because I think you're streamlining a lot as we go into 2024, and I want to talk to it. This is the first time we've spoken in 2024. What happened to Christmas?
That it is.
Let's start with the Central Yilgarn as an example of what you've just spoken about. Talk to us about that project.
Yep, Central Yilgarn. Central Yilgarn it's like we talked about Managaroon a fair bit and how the prospectors controlled that. Central Yilgarn, I like to refer to as the Bermuda Triangle of the Yilgarn. So the Yilgarn is this world-class Archean granite greenstone terrain that has hundreds of millions of ounces of gold. It's very prolific. And when you look at exploration and prospectors, and especially in the early days, they didn't just go forth in this even coverage across the state. They followed a lot of existing tracks that were established by the early explorers, like legends like John Forrest and the rest, who went out and as they were exploring these areas, they were marking areas as good for pastoral land, good for mineral resources, and the rest, or the opposite, bad, horrible ground and no water. And when John Forrest went across the Central Yilgarn area, across Lake Barley, made comments about, they spent days and days looking for a pool of water for their horses and everything else. They were exploring to go search for someone who had gone out that way and perished. So when then on the back of that data, the pastoralists then go out first, which most people don't realize. Oftentimes the pastoral set up the infrastructure and the support for the prospectors that came second. And where Central Yilgarn is located is over 100 kilometers in any direction from the nearest tracks or train lines that went out to service the goldfields, whether it's up to Meekatharra or across to Kalgoorlie and up to Wiluna and across the top through Sandstone. This sits right in the middle of this area that had no water. It was very not a whole lot of support out there, and certainly no pastoral stations out there. And so it's received very little exploration. And from 2000 to 2015, a lot of it was controlled by iron ore companies. And so you also have this, modern exploration. You have, this, every generation has new modern exploration techniques. But when you look at like modern gold exploration, multi-element geochemistry and detailed geophysics, that really kicks in late 90s, early 2000s. And that entire time period, well, that's happening in the established goldfields. This area is being controlled by iron ore companies. So you had Sino Steel, Portman Iron, MacArthur Iron, all controlling this ground. And in 2016, when the iron ore crashed at that stage, a lot of the ground became free. Newmont pegged the Illawarra Greenstone Belt, which is what Dreadnought, one of the first deals that Dreadnought did with Newmont, was to pick up the Illawarra Greenstone Belt. Another company, Arrow, which we recently acquired their land holding, they picked up that ground in 2016, the same time that Newmont did. And so we essentially have, for the very first time, the ability to explore this ground with modern exploration techniques for gold in an area that was unprospected for gold. Around that same time period, or just before, is when the Yermana Belt was opening up. Again, it was very distant to everything. And that's when you make the Gruyere discovery and the rest that the Gold Road did. It was fantastic discoveries and opening up these new search bases. And that's what we see a similar opportunity for at Central Yilgarn. And we've accumulated that ground over the last year and a half while we've been drilling out the rare earths. And we're very excited to kick off the year at Central Yilgarn and put some of the first holes into this area since 2018.
It's interesting. My brain was going just then when you were chatting, Dean, because I remember back in the day when people were saying there's no gold in the Pilbara, and now you can look at De Grey mining and go, there's about 5 or 6 million and growing ounces up there.
That's
and
right.
Iron ore is the only thing that's up there. There's no gold. So in my head right now, I'm thinking the iron ore companies had it. Could this potentially be something similar?
That's the dream and that's the vision. So when you look at, a lot of people look at project generation, they'll look for existing dots or existing occurrences because the shadow of the head frame is the best place to look. Yep. We take a viewpoint that the shadow of the head frame is only a good place to look if you own the head frame. If you want to make a greenfields exploration discovery, you want to make one of these legendary discoveries like Hemi, like Gruyere, like Tropicana, like Julimar.
Yeah, okay.
Those are all in areas that had no prospectivity for gold or nickel or whatever else because they were unloved or held by other companies that weren't looking for that particular commodity. And so those are the opportunities that we like. So we like looking at the history of the area, the sentiment towards an area, because to us, the most prospective area is an area that geologically should contain mineralization, but for whatever reason, doesn't have any known at this stage. To us, that's the most prospective ground to go accumulate.
Okay, now I'm getting excited. So talk to us about what you're going to be doing in 2024, because I do remember the Hemi discovery. I do remember the Gruyere discovery. So now I'm looking for the Dreadnought discovery. What are you going to do? And it's not, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, not financial advice. Do your own research, call it yourself. But I'm just saying, okay, how do you, how far do you go and how long do you go before you go, there it is, or time to move on? I just kind of want to get the
That's
sense
right.
of the
That's
explorer
right.
vision.
That's right. And the other thing that people don't always appreciate with Gruyere and Hemi is that electromining and Gold Road and De Grey were all in those belts for over 10 years before they made those discoveries. So
Yeah.
while these are prolific and fantastic places to be in, they're a bit they can be a bit cheeky in letting up their treasures. So what we have here, we don't want to be here for 10 years. That since 2016, Newmont and the previous company over the other greenstone belts has been exploring that, and we've inherited a fantastic data set. And so we're hoping that at this stage we have walk-up drill targets, we have areas of known mineralization that have one drill hole or two drill holes into them, confirmed mineralization, waiting to just get up there and drill some of these things. And so we're hoping that we can leverage off the work that was done. They say, was the saying that the third company is the one that makes money from a mine. So hopefully, being the second company in some of these areas, we can be the second company that makes that discovery. And so what do we have? We'll be out there at Central Yilgarn first thing. So we accumulated that ground a year and a half ago. We haven't done any work on the ground so far, very limited ground work. And so we have these walk-up targets that we've inherited and that we've proven up. So we have some IP anomalies, we've proven gold anomalies and all the rest. We're going to walk up and drill into these straight away. So end of March, start of April, drill rig is spinning at Central Yilgarn. We got 6 walk-up targets. Each one of those could be a discovery, but they're very compelling targets. There's never a guarantee in exploration or discoveries, but we will drill these targets and we are very excited by them. While we're doing that work, we will, as we always do at Dreadnought, for every target we test, we want to be generating 5 or 6 new targets. Because as you continue to learn in a new area, you continue to improve your targeting and improve your criteria and hopefully make that discovery. If you don't make it this time, or make that next discovery in the belt. So we'll be doing that target generation and definition work while we're testing these targets straight away.
How much time are you going to spend on the central? Well, 2 things. How much time are you going to spend on the Central Yilgarn? Because I want to talk about 2 other projects. And how much of the budget will go on to that drill program for the Central Yilgarn?
Yeah, we'll probably say around 25 to 35% of the budget will be going to Central. And that will be really, and that's sort of split up in 2 phases here. So that first stage project, we're going to get out there March, April, deliver this high impact drilling program and do some target generation work around the area. We'll be out there for about a month. And then we're moving up to Managaroon. And then we're moving up to the Kimberley. And we'll also come back to Central Yilgarn mid-year around winter time and do some additional work programs out of the Lara and Central Yilgarn as well. So that work at Central will be split up between right now and mid-year. And in between, we'll head up to Managaroon and the Kimberley, which each all respectively have about 1/3 of the income, with 1/3 of our capital allocation.
Stepping back before I get a step forward to Managaroon, just sorry to do this to you, but again, I just want to understand it fully. Do you, for the past couple of years, has it been all about, I guess, bringing all this together and doing it now that we're in 2024? It's like, right, we've done the work, we've got the ground, we know where we're going to go, we know where we're going to drill. So now is 2024 is potentially the discovery year. Do you see where I'm coming from with this? In other words, lots of ground work. This is the right duration.
This is discovery year. Absolutely. So last year was all resource work on the rare earth ironstones. So we made that discovery in 2021. So in 2022, we made those drilling discoveries on the rare earths and in the Kimberley for Ryan. I know that's a couple steps ahead at the moment. But we made 2 big discoveries that year with the drill rig. So not just outcropping discoveries, but actually drill intercepts. And last year we focused on delivering that resource on the rare earths. And with the hope that at this stage or in the near future, we'd have a commercialization outcome for that. But the rare earth market that hasn't sat with us. So we're just moving on to business as usual, which is making that next discovery. So while delivering that resource at Yin on the rare earths, we've been accumulating, generating, defining targets for the gold and the copper so that when we finish the rare earths, we could roll out and start making the next round of discoveries. And so that's where we believe we are at. We have drill targets lined up and being generated and defined as we speak. And we're going to put drill holes into those and hopefully come out with our next round of big discoveries this year.
Okay, that was a really good overview of the Central Yilgarn. It's all about the gold there. Can you go up to Managaroon, because I believe that's also prolific potentially for gold, potentially a discovery.
Potentially, that's right.
Potentially. Do you like the way I keep saying potentially? What's your work program? When's it going to start? What's the budget look like? Let's go through that.
Yeah. So similar to Central Yilgarn, we have some walk-up drill targets that deliver at Managaroon. So the rig will be drilling at Central Yilgarn March, April. Then April, May, mobilize up to Managaroon, drill some of those walk-up targets. But Managaroon is really going to see a lot of target generation and definition work this year. What we've seen with the Star of Managaroon camp expanding, it's gone from what we thought was a 10 to 14 kilometer long shear zone. It's actually expanded out. Now it's 14 by 10 kilometers in dimension as this gold camp, and we believe there's other gold camps there as well. So we're going to be crawling all over this ground, mapping, doing the target generation, target definition work, and hopefully identifying some outcropping gold lodes and putting drill holes into those this year as well. So that's a two-stage drill program. We have walk-up drill targets now, and then we're going to be generating, defining that next round of targets around the Star of Managaroon and within the Managaroon project area more widely, and put more drill holes into that also at mid-year. So we have Central Yilgarn drilling, Managaroon drilling, and then another bit of Managaroon drilling into new targets.
Now, just on Managaroon, that's got a lot of history behind it. Very unloved because that early exploration was hindered by lack of infrastructure and also lack of investment. But how difficult is it to be working out there? I mentioned that lack of infrastructure. Has it got any better?
It's a fantastic place to operate. The pastoralists are extremely friendly. We have a great relationship with the Darcy family, with the Gagalatis, with the people at Gifford Creek. We have very good relationships with all the stations, and the infrastructure is fantastic. And we've been able to develop a very symbiotic relationship with the pastoralists, helping look after infrastructure and employing them and using them to help look after the ground. And the native title groups as well are very supportive and a bit jealous occasionally of their Pilbara neighbors who get lots of royalties and things like that. So there's certainly a lot of support for income to start coming into some of these areas, because these are areas that haven't had a lot of mining. There's not a lot of royalties coming through, and even on the warm fuzzy side, we've identified so many new ethnographic sites with our relationship with the TOs, and actually being out there to be there while passing that knowledge on to the next generation of native title owners and everything else is something that's been really real privilege to be a part of. Because again, there hasn't been a lot of surveys done out in this area. There hasn't been a lot of that knowledge being passed down. And us and our neighbors have all had great relationships, and it's really amazing to see this area evolve, and everyone seems to be getting on pretty happily with the mother.
I want to point out, because we were both at the ROU Explorers Conference recently, and I know during your presentation you talked about recent drilling at the Star of Managaroon, and that some of the numbers for me were impressive. Were they impressive for you? Like 2 meters at 59 grams per ton, 7 at 23 grams per ton. Like, they sound solid numbers. What's that telling you as a geo?
What is that telling us? That telling us there's a high grade system here. And that's really the focus for why we're at Managaroon. There's dozens of million ounce 1 to 1.5 gram deposits out there in WA that are owned by companies with 40, 50 mil market caps and require 250 mil to get into production.
Okay.
A lot of those aren't going to get up and running. But when you find something high grade, when you find a Penny West, when you find a Bellevue, when you find something that's got grade, the capital intensity is so less and the mills are so much hungrier for that material. Our focus is not to find a big 1 to 1.5 gram deposit. We're out here because we believe we can identify high grade lodes within this area. And that's these 100 gram meter intercepts. We want a lot of those. So we see this as a high grade gold camp. Some of those loads might be a bit smaller, but Penny West was 300, 600. Vivian fed Mount Magnet for years, was struck 300 Ks by Vermilius. So if you find some high grade loads, which we believe this area has the capacity for, that can be worth a lot of money. That can come into production a lot more easily and be very attractive to mills around the place.
Yeah, very good for the mills. Right. We don't have a lot of time left. budget-wise, what, 25-30% of the budget on Managaroon or more?
A little bit more, probably more than 35% sitting there. Absolutely. So a little bit more than Central Yilgarn, but they're all about the same. A little bit more than Central Yilgarn because there's a lot more. There's a lot of really exciting target definition work to do there.
That's what I suspect, which is why I talked about that.
But that's also a lot of time. So it's not just money; it's also time. And we have some great geologists crawling over that ground. Not exactly spending lots of money, but generating lots of good targets and high impact exploration.
All right. Finally, the Kimberley, up in the Kimberley, that I can't pronounce it. The Taraji Yampi?
Yeah,
Taraji. I got close. Taraji Yampi. This is copper gold up in the Kimberley. Talk to us about that and why you're there.
Yep. So that's one of the listing assets for Dreadnought. The Kimberley off limits to exploration since 1978. Opened back up to mineral exploration. We're one of the first people to get boots on ground. There's mineralization sticking out of the ground. It's a dream come true for an exploration area. Again, new search space can be because of new concepts. New search space can also be because of change in legislation that opens it up to exploration. That's what the Kimberley is. And in 2021, the same year we made the rare earth discoveries, we also made the Orion copper gold massive sulfide discovery. Diamond drilling that we did last year. Last year was a very frustrating program. We delivered, we had 13 Orion lookalikes we wanted to drill. We wanted to prove up this camp. Weather hindered us significantly. We only got a couple holes drilled in. But importantly, we got some diamond holes put in. We've learned a lot of detail about these deposits from that diamond drilling. We've confirmed that this is a similar style of mineralization, DMS, to DeGrussa. So the deposit that made Sandfire. So it's the same style of mineralization. It's almost an identical alteration, identical everything in ages and all the rest of it. So that's extremely encouraging. And then that Grant's mineralization style is a completely separate epithermal style of mineralization, which can get very high grade. You're probably more familiar on the East Coast with epithermal deposits. And there's a different exploration technique, IP, which we're very keen to roll out over this area and generate some targets on that. So that when we get up there this year, we will have a review of our targets that we had last year, some of which have awful conductors and everything with them. And we'll have new targets for the epithermal style of mineralization as well. So we'll have those targets that were there last year rearranged and prioritized from our new knowledge and information that we've learned, and any new targets that come from the IP survey. So very excited, copper and gold discoveries, hopefully this year up in the Kimberley as well.
Well, and it would be remiss of me before I say, give me 3 reasons people should sit up and take notice. I think we've given the 3 reasons, haven't we? I think we could say Central Yilgarn, Managaroon, Kimberley. There's the 3 reasons, ladies and gentlemen. All good discoveries on the way.
All good discovery type drilling up this year, multiple bites of the cherry. So we're really looking forward to delivering one of these discoveries, or hopefully more than one of these discoveries this year.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to come and ask the harsh questions of Dean, and you know what, things could be incredibly different come August 26th to 28th, because Dean will be at the Australian Gold Conference. He'll be presenting and he will be exhibiting at the Gold Conference. So last comments go to you, Dean, as we wrap up this interview, because we're going to come back next month and do another one. But for now, I'll leave you to make the last comments.
Well, thank you, Kerry. It's been great. What have we got in store this year? Gold, copper, gold. Streamline the portfolio. We're going to be focused this year on our commodities and our projects, and we're looking forward to bringing hopefully some nice visible gold with us to the Sydney Gold Conference.
There you go. That's a great way to wrap it up. He's going to bring hopefully some visible gold to the Gold Conference. Dean Tuck, Managing Director of Dreadnought Resources, ASX code, ladies and gentlemen, DRE. Watch this space. These guys are on the, what would you say, really focused on discovery in 2024. Thanks for joining me on Making Money Matter.
Thank you, Kerry.